Hi everyone, welcome back to Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics. 2014 Prius V. Nice clean car, 145,000 miles. Customer complaint is, in the morning on startup, it shakes. Then it gets smooth. She noticed her coolant level was dropping. Not good. What's the diagnosis? Head gasket. Head gasket failure. What is this, a Subaru? Well, no, it's a Toyota that now needs a head gasket. If you ignore these symptoms, you'll need an engine, right? Crazy. 140,000 miles. 10-year-old car and needs major engine surgery. This is what you get. The hidden cost of hybrids. The regular Toyota Corollas with the 1.8, they don't seem to have these problems. It's these Priuses. I don't know why, but apparently the head gaskets just start leaking coolant into the combustion chamber. Ridiculous. So a quick check. The coolant was very low. I topped it off. Engine oil. That is milkshake. Severe milkshake. The owner said that she had this oil changed in the spring, and then she stopped driving it because she didn't want to harm the engine, which is good. You don't want to push it. You want to get this taken care of as soon as possible. So it still runs smoothly. You look under the oil cap. Milkshake. It's like pudding. So right off the bat, before we even order parts, I want to drain out this engine oil and replace it, and then we'll do the head gasket. Now, book time is like 19 hours. They want you to pull the engine out. If you look on videos online on YouTube, apparently you can do it with the engine in the car. You gotta take off the cowl, timing cover, timing chain. You know, intake manifold and the exhaust manifold kind of stays with the head. Lift the whole thing up, pop a new head gasket on there. The engine has never been overheated. I made sure to ask the owner that, because if it has, then the head might be warped, the block might be warped. Not a good scenario. So I think we can save this one just by doing a head gasket replacement. But still, it's, you know, almost $3,000 for parts and labor for a 19-hour labor time. So you might save a little bit on fuel, but you want to have that fund ready for the head gasket. And then at 200,000 miles, your brake master cylinder is going to start leaking internally, and that's another $3,000 to repair. You can see my other video on that. So I really don't recommend these cars. They're nice when they work, but when you have to repair them, sometimes they can get really expensive. So let's at least change the engine oil now, and then once we get the parts, we'll change the head gasket. Well, I can't get the oil filter cap off. 1/2-inch extendable ratchet. I had to clamp this down so the adapter wouldn't come off, and I really cranked on it. This is seized. Never seen that before. Let's drain the pudding out of here at least. Give it some fresh oil. We'll do another oil change after replacing the head gasket. Alright, well, we got 4 quarts of 0W20 synthetic. So we're going to run it for a little bit. And I left the coolant reservoir cap loose so it doesn't build pressure. So the problem is, you know, how much coolant gets into the cylinders when The engine warms up, system's under pressure, you shut it off, and until the pressure drops, the coolant keeps getting pumped into the combustion chamber through the head gasket. But if you relieve the pressure in the system, that will be minimized, and we don't want to stress this engine out any more than it, it already has been. So let's fire it up and see how it runs. All right, here we go. What am I doing wrong here? Ready. I can't even drive a hybrid. Oh, it's got to make its fun sound. Make sure it doesn't crush anyone. There's the engine. Started up pretty smoothly. We're backing up like a big truck. Make sure no one gets hurt. So it runs perfect. Data looks fantastic. Like 0% fuel trims. So hopefully a head gasket will make this car as good as new, but it's not going to be cheap. Alright, Prius 2014 Prius V is in the shop. We're doing the head gasket replacement. So the parts that I got, we still need to figure out how to change the oil filter because that housing was very stuck. Valve cover gasket kit and little tiny Velcro head gasket Permatorque multi-layer steel. Now I've heard on a certain channel, Car Care Nut, he said he wouldn't use a Velcro gasket on a lawnmower. I don't know why that is. I've never had a problem with Velcro. Actually, I use them on the Subarus to improve on the factory gasket. And guess what? This OEM gasket didn't last 150,000 miles, so the OEM one is junk. So I'm going to try the Velcro. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Let's unhook the 12-volt battery and the hybrid battery safety plug. So I got this unhooked right here. And then this, like so. We'll just place that right here. I think that should be good. I'm going to leave this blanket right here so the trunk doesn't close all the way because, it's electric. So I don't want it to close and then be a pain in the butt to reconnect the battery. So we have some onion to peel back here. We have to remove this whole wiper assembly and cowl to get some access. That goes pretty quickly. This whole thing just comes out of here. There we go. So before we pull this head off, I took all the spark plugs out. I want 100% confirmation that the coolant loss is due to a bad head gasket. So borescope in the cylinders. I didn't see any steam clean pistons. That's a little concerning. I mean, you would expect to see steam clean pistons. Let's turn on the side view camera on the Teslong NTS 500 and look at the head gasket interface while I pressurize. You can watch that. I'm going to pressurize the cooling system, just 20 psi into the system. If the pressure gets too high, it'll just come out of the radiator cap that's rated to 108 kPa. That's like 13 psi. So let's try it. So I'm going to plug this port off with my thumb so the coolant doesn't squirt out. Look at the camera there. So I'm going to pressurize the system. There it is. By the way, looking at the spark plugs, which one looks a little bit different? It might be tough to pick up on camera. Number 1, 2, 3, and 4 are kind of nice black with a white porcelain. They're covered in dielectric grease, so you can see the goop everywhere. That's not good, but look at number 1. It has like deposits inside, and it's a little more brown. So I'm going to focus on cylinder number 1. Okay, so confirmed it's definitely leaking at the head gasket interface, not a cracked head or something. So that's it. Cylinder 1 is the culprit, needs a head gasket. Alright, got the plastic intake manifold off with the throttle body. And notice there's some oil in the bottom of this thing. So we'll drain that out, clean up the throttle body. This thing will be... It's a little grungy from the EGR effect, but yeah, not terrible. Alright, so the game plan here is, what else do we have to remove? The timing chain, or timing cover, and then timing chain. This EGR valve is attached to the exhaust manifold, which is attached to the head. So again, I watched a couple videos, and it seems like the path of least resistance is just undo the 2 big studs there from the catalytic converter, and this whole thing with the EGR valve comes off with the head. Now this is a 2-piece head. You see there's sealant right there. This is like the camshaft holder, and that's the valve holder. And to get to the head bolts, you have to separate these two, which is, again, kind of silly. Subaru does this. Maybe Toyota and Subaru work together on this design, and that's where the head gasket issues come from. I don't know. It's a little premature to have a head gasket failure like this. But I'm just going to carefully pry up. There are 2 rusty dowels, one here and one here. So this one is moving. This one is not moving yet. It's trying. So let me get this off. We'll set it to TDC and start moving the timing cover and timing chain. Interesting timing chain tensioner design here. So it bolts to the back side of the timing cover, and it just extends all the way when you take it out. Now, to reset it, you can't really put a grenade pin in it, so they made this little hook. Let's see. You can press this little gizmo. So we'll retract it all the way in, then hook this. Nice. So when you install it, it goes like this. Pretty cool. So right there, it's fixed, ready to reinstall whenever. Get this thing back together. By the way, it's our lucky day at TDC. The cam marks, looks like they lined up. Amazing. So there's 2 orange ones here on this line, and 1 orange one here. On this line, it's pointing straight up. This one is pointing kind of right at this intersection between the bolt and this oil gallery, and then the yellow mark down here on the pulley is at the 0 degree. So that's TDC. Now we have to take off the harmonic balancer, take off the entire timing cover, unglue that, then take off all these cam caps, take out the camshafts, take out the bottom cam caps, and finally we can see the head bolts down there. It's kind of a silly design. I'm not a huge fan. We should be able to get to the head bolts right now and pull this whole thing with the cams and everything. So I'm just going to gently pry the cover off using the camshaft bolt. Don't pry it on the phaser itself. Make sure you have a pan underneath because you're going to have some spillage of milkshake. So the oil filter housing is off. I'm letting that drain too. And I think we're all set here. What do you know? It's a lot easier when you take all the bolts out. There's one hiding right here. You can't see it when you're working on this thing. Ta-da! There's the timing cover. Alright, now let's pop off the timing chain. So you can see it's loose. That guy just kind of swings back. Gotta take this guide off. And then make sure the marks here, here, and on the crank there's a dot and the single link right there. So there you go. Pretty straightforward. The cams might spring back a little bit, no big deal. And there's our chain. Okay, so now if we just take out the bigger bolts, the camshaft should stay in the carrier, and the whole carrier should come up and with the camshafts. So I guess that's less disassembly. Let's just try that. Okay, so now the whole carrier, if we find a good place to pry, should come up with the camshafts. Okay, so it's separated and the EGR valve is unscrewed from this part of the head. So I think you just hear that sealant letting go. Okay. Alrighty. Alright, this is my favorite part of I do cars, is when he cracks the head bolts loose. So let's go for it. By the way, the socket, it's not your ordinary socket, it's an VAM XZN12M. Get a set, kind of a European design. They're a little tight. Yes, we are reusing head bolts. In the instructions they say replacement recommended but not required, and we don't replace extra parts if not necessary. Alright, let me undo the fuel line, then we'll pop this thing out of here. Alright, so the fuel line pressure is already low. That's good. We'll just kind of tuck it away right here. Now, I think the head gasket should be ready to release. Maybe a little bit of prying right here. Yep, it's coming up. Maybe there's a dowel right here. Yep, there is a dowel. Right there, you can see it's rusty, aluminum and steel. Let's spray that down. So sometimes a little heat in the dowel area helps these things loosen up. Just make sure there's no plastic in the way or rubber. In the salt belt, even doing head gaskets is harder. Oh man. Those guys in the South don't know how easy they have it. That's a stubborn one. So this is Toyota Special Tool number 12280. You have to use it in conjunction with the other one. Oh, there we go. It's moving. There we go. Come on. We can take it from here. This is still stuck. Guess we gotta pry it off all the way, huh? Now the whole shebang should come off. Oh no, I sat back down. Well, let me get it off camera. Alright, what do we see with our head gasket? Let's get it off of here. This is our prize. Where was the breach between the cooling jacket and cylinder number 1? Right in this area. See where that black is missing? That's where the coolant was leaking in. And this side, yeah, that black stuff, just look, I can just wipe it off with my finger. Right there. Once it gets past that ring, you're done. So right there was the problem area. From here, so that's it. That's the original gasket. You know, it's multi-layer steel and everything, but apparently still sucks. So we know the head gasket is blown. Right there's probably the bad spot, also around here. But how did that make a huge milkshake without steam cleaning the cylinder? That's pretty crazy. So it must have been just, if you leave it for a while, and then you get like a quarter cup of coolant in the cylinder, then it'll drain down past the piston rings and just mix with the oil. Because while it was running very smoothly, and this isn't steam clean, so it's not like the coolant was spraying in. I think it was only a problem when the engine would cool down. This would open up from thermal expansion, coolant would come in, and then once you start it, it'll get pushed down past the rings and out the exhaust valve, engine heats up, everything seals up, and you're good. So this car could have kept on going if we left the radiator cap off, or the coolant tank reservoir cap, to reduce pressure in the cooling system. But this is the correct fix, so let's install the new head gasket.